What is up, you guys? It is your boy John here from Puma Plow. Welcome to another On the Farm. How's everybody doing? Appreciate you guys clicking on another video. So we saw a couple weeks ago that the John Deere was up and running and perfect, ready to go. Well, we've got an issue. Let's go check it out. All right, you guys, so I'm in the shop now, and yes, the John Deere was up and running, quite perfect, and it was good to go. So when we replaced the breather gasket, which I did not show you guys, we kind of realized that the breather was not working like it should. Well, instead of replacing the breather right away, I went out and cut grass with it for about 20 minutes the other day, and we blew out the sump gasket. So that is what we are going to do. We need to pull the motor out of the John Deere. We need to pull the motor out and replace the sump gasket, which is down here. If you guys don't know, it's basically, you know, where the motor comes apart down there. So the motor will have to come out of the John Deere, unfortunately, which means more work on the John Deere, but that's okay. It's really not that expensive, but it's just, you know, it's time consuming. That's really the only problem with it. So I'm gonna get to work on the John Deere. You guys will get to see hopefully as much as possible, and we will just work on it until it's done. So first thing we have to do is fuel line, throttle cable, kill wire, the hot wire going to the starter. We are going to disconnect the battery first things first. Safety is a consideration, I guess. So let's get into working on the JD, and I'll probably switch to voiceover mode after this.
What is up, you guys? John, the voiceover guy here from Puma Plow. How's it going? Welcome to the voiceover part of this particular video. Working on the John Deere 111, hopefully for the last time. So in case you guys aren't totally sure what's going on here, we replaced the breather gasket on this motor, and we're pretty sure the breather itself was not functioning like it should anyway. And I went out and cut grass with the tractor for about 20 minutes or so, and pretty sure I blew out the sump gasket, not a seal, it's a gasket. And while we had the motor apart, which you'll see in a little bit, we did go ahead and replace the main bottom seal in the motor as well, just because you might as well. So battery cable, throttle cable, fuel line, kill wire, and we took the clutch off the bottom, of course. I didn't film that. Dad actually got down and did it. I offered, he said nope, he would do it, and okay. So pull the motor out. It was pretty dirty on the bottom side because it had been leaking for a while out of the breather, or the breather gasket somewhere in there. And when we replaced that, we blew out the sump gasket as well. So it was quite oily, and Dad's trying to figure out exactly where it was leaking. I'm not sure that we ever actually figured out exactly where it was leaking. Now, I'm pretty sure this motor had been leaking for quite some time. You know, this tractor's old. This is the original engine in the tractor, and you know, years and years of people using it, and it was quite dirty. Really not as bad as it could have been, but it was still pretty dirty. It was on the dirty side. So yeah, we decided the first thing you want to do before opening the motor up is clean. It's very important to clean. You don't want to get all this nasty, you know, crap inside of your motor. That's just a recipe for disaster. These old motors like this, of course, do not have oil filters. So a lot of your smaller engines don't have oil filters. You have to get, you know, a little bit bigger to have an oil filter. So like my Gravely lawnmower with a 15-horse engine has a oil filter on it. Anyway, this is old technology. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with this motor. It is still a good motor. But you can see it's kind of ooey gooey, greasy, nasty mess. And lots of carb cleaner later and a bunch of paper towels. We were able to clean it up. And here we are popping the bolts on there with our DeWalt impact gun. I believe that's the 20 volt one. We have a 20 volt and an 18 volt, and they're both awesome. Probably two of the best tools we've ever invested in for the farm. We had the 18, of course, first because we had all the 18 volt stuff first, and then we decided to upgrade some of it to the 20. That's kind of a random rant, anyway, pulling this motor apart. It's like late o'clock in the morning, so if I'm a little random and weird, that's just, you know, the way it is, right? No big deal. No big deal. It's late o'clock. Late o'clock. If you guys want to guess in the comments below what late o'clock is, feel free to guess in the comments, and I will tell somebody if they're right, if they guessed what late o'clock is, at least for me right now. Anyway, so there you can see the sump of the motor pulled apart, and there is a gasket on there, of course, and then there's a seal where the crankshaft comes out, and we replace both of those. Now for the gasket we replaced down there, but the seals can be a little bit tricky, not like the kind you find out in ocean, you know, at the zoo or the ocean or whatever. Seals can be a little tricky to put in, so we actually took the sump, that whole piece that I'm holding right there. Dad took it to where he works. He works at a lawn and garden shop. Had one of the guys there, the mechanic guy, the really good mechanic, go ahead and put our new seal in for us, just because it's a little bit easier to do if it's something you do all the time. Now, we could put it in down at the farm, sure thing, but we'd probably tear up at least one and have to go get another one, so it's just easier to take it. Plus, he put the thing in the parts washer and cleaned it up. We need to get ourselves a parts washer at the farm. You guys can see here, I'm using an oil pan and some diesel fuel. We need to get ourselves one of those parts washers you can buy at like Harbor Freight even, or somewhere, I don't know. I think we need to get one of those for the farm. We've got lots of other tools, you know. That seems like something we could use a fair bit. You know, messing with all of our toys that are older and, you know, oily and just nasty sometimes, like this John Deere at times, especially around the motor. It would be nice to have a parts washer. But anyway, here you can see the motor without the sump on it, and it's actually very clean on the inside. Considering the age of this motor, and honestly the people we got it from didn't seem like they really took care of stuff, or they didn't really know what they were doing. It's surprising how clean the inside of this motor was, which means I guess they changed the oil on a semi-regular basis, and changed the air filter as well, all that good stuff. So now, jump ahead a couple days, the motor's been sitting here without the sump on it, no big deal. And Dad is putting a silicone, I believe it was a silicone, for our gaskets on here, a very thin layer. You put it on, you let it dry a little bit, you put your gasket in, you tighten it down until it starts to squish out, I believe, and then you let that dry, and then you crank it down. So it was a whole thing. It was definitely a whole thing. Or maybe, you know what, you put it on a thin layer, put the gasket on right away, put the sump on once it squishes out a little bit as you're tightening. I think that's what it was. Directions are on the freaking thing. You know, you don't need me to tell you how to do it. These aren't how-to videos, by the way. These are how we do videos. I heard that from a YouTube video one time, and I was like, that is brilliant. I love it. So, not how-to videos, how we do videos. Yes, very good. So there you can see the new gasket. There's not much to that gasket at all. It is a very thin gasket, but that is the correct gasket for that motor. So we are good to go there. And then we went to put the sump on, and I was like, hey, which first off, making sure it's nice and clean on the inside. But I was like, I'm pretty sure you need the splasher. Oh wait, that's coming up here in a second. Never mind, that is a spoiler. Here you go. We can see we're putting the silicone on the other side on the sump, so then there's silicone on both sides of the gasket. We should never have a leak again. Hopefully. Okay, so here's Dad. He's gonna put the sump back on the bottom side of the motor here, and yeah, the splasher's not in there. It's a splasher, governor, whatever. It splashes the oil back up into the motor, is what that actually does when it's running, and it is the governor as well. I believe it's what Dad said. Pretty sure. I've only ever taken apart motors. I've never really put them back together. I've taken apart a few junkers and whatnot, but I've never really put them back together. I should get a working motor, take it completely apart, and then put it back together just for the hell of it. I really should. Sounds like something fun to do. Make a video out of it, or a couple, you know? Yeah. All right, so there's a few little alignment pins here, and you want to get them aligned up just so. Dad's going to use the handle part of a hammer just to tap a little bit. Don't want to go too crazy on it. You shouldn't have to if everything's aligned properly. And we're good to go. There is a new seal in the bottom of the motor, and then the new gasket. We did put a new breather on as well, and it has a new gasket on it as well. So Dad's using some Loctite now, because it's always a good idea to use some Loctite. We're using blue Loctite so that we can take it apart in the future if we have to. In case you guys don't know, there's two different kinds of Loctite. There's blue and there's red. I believe red, you need a torch to basically deactivate the Loctite. It's kind of like bolt glue is what Loctite really is. But I believe the red, you have to use a torch to deactivate it. We've never used red. We've always ever used blue. It is a brand new tube of it as well, because our other tube, I think, leaked out on our workbench or something. I'm not totally sure what happened to it. It's not at the farm anymore. So we went ahead and got a new tube of that. So yeah, and here we are. We're just tightening them down enough to squish out a little bit of silicone, and then we let it sit for like an hour, I believe it was. So yeah. And it's kind of amazing how fast you can pull a motor out of this tractor and how fast you can really put it back in, especially with two people. It's not too bad. Putting the clutch on the bottom side was kind of a pain because you got to wrestle the belts and all that good stuff, but hey, no big deal. So there you can see the new breather on the side. Basically that prevents your motor from blowing up. It's a thing, definitely. And then we're going to put the carburetor back on. That's what I'm tightening down now. And luckily we have not had to we haven't had to do anything to this carburetor. So very happy about that. I think maybe the guy before us has been through the carburetor, but I don't know. He seemed like he liked to tinker with stuff, the guy that we got the tractor from. So yeah, I cleaned the engine plate, I guess you could call it there. I cleaned it. It took quite a while. It was nasty. It was disgusting. Lots of oil, lots of dirt from over the years. And yeah, we should have probably taken the hood off of the tractor, but I really didn't want to, because why if you don't have to? It would have been a little easier. We would have had a little more room. But that's okay. With the two of us, we can wrestle it right in there. And we're good to go. So positive battery cable goes on the starter. There's a ground wire that goes to the motor as well. Kill wire to kill it. Obviously, that's what kill wire is for. Fuel line, throttle cable, and then your clutch on the bottom. And that's really about it. It's kind of amazing. So it's not that big of a deal really to pull the motor and put it back in. Obviously this took place over, I think it was 2 days, but that's only because we took the sump to where my dad works to get the new seal put in it and get it, finish cleaning it up in the parts washer. So put the throttle cable back on, making sure I have it set in the right spot, so when you go up all the way, it goes to choke. And on this particular motor and tractor, when you go down all the way on your throttle, it will kill the engine. Most throttle cables aren't like that. You would use the key, but you have two options how to kill it, basically. No big deal there. So good to go. Hook the fuel line back up. Here I go on the battery cables and all that good stuff. And I'm actually going to put oil in the motor now. This motor holds about 1.5 quarts. I have a little bit less than that in right now, and I spoiler for like here in a minute, I ran the thing, and then I'll recheck it before I run it again. This is straight 30 weight. That's what you would want to use for summertime use. In the winter you can use some other stuff, but it's not winter here anymore, so we don't have to worry about that, and we're not going to run this thing too much in the winter anyway. What are we going to do? Go out and mow the snow? Probably not. So there is that. Fill it up, and I believe I checked the fuel. We haven't put a lot of fuel in it yet, but check the fuel. And there you can see it out in the yard. It is running, of course. And at this point, I'd already cut some grass with it and checked it out, and seems to be good to go. No leaks. No leaks to speak of. And it seems like we're in good shape, of course, at least for a little while now. every time before I get it out, I will look at the engine plate just to make sure that there are no oil leaks, because you don't want to run your motor, of course, without any oil in it. That would be very bad for it. We would burn it up quite fast and probably end up just hauling it to the scrap pile and get rid of the whole thing if that were to happen. So you can see we're cutting grass. We're cutting heavy wet grass. I believe it had rained this day or something. I don't know. I just wanted to go out and run the thing and make sure that it was good to go. And as you guys can see, it is good to go. We are moving, we are cutting. Our grass is kind of patchy back there, isn't it? So I did something here you probably shouldn't do. I held the chute up because I wanted it to discharge a little bit better, because with that chute on, it really doesn't discharge, but that's okay. That's what they're kind of designed for, so it's all good. It's all good in the hood. So, guys, I think I'm going to leave you there. I'm going to leave you guys with some actual audio of the John Deere in action. If you guys are dying to know, like, what does it really sound like, I'll leave you guys with that. And I will simply say thank you guys for watching another On the Farm episode 101. Hit that like button for more. Subscribe if you have not already done so. And as always, toodles.